Katie and I have made a film about Iceland. Not this Iceland, but this one. We travelled to Iceland on the cruise ship Azores via Stornoway on the Isle of Lewis, an interesting place in itself with Celtic legends and a Tesco superstore. There are traditional buildings in the rugged terrain, and we were able to see inside one of the preserved stone houses, and we were shown a circle of granite stones, the Callanish stones, Scotland's Stonehenge, made of Lewisian gneiss, rock that's about 300 million years old, and the structure itself is thought to date back some 4,000 years. The islands were always vulnerable to attack, and we saw some of the ancient defences, very strong and built from local granite. And then it was time to move on to the Faroes, more specifically the port of Tórshavn. Tórshavn port is capable of taking large vessels, and its chief industry is fishing. We toured the island in this bus and admired its spectacular scenery. Undulating hills in this part of the world, very cold but nevertheless quite lush really. And having toured round, we called into this rather splendid little wooden church.
It's from the 19th century, a bit of 1800. And it's all built by, most of the ferrymen were sailormen, so they were not professional carpenters building just this church. And wood was very expensive to get on the Faroe Islands at that time, so it was very expensive to build a church like this for the Faroese population.
The Faroe Islands are best described as giant slices of tiered basalt, tilted to one side and covered in green with heavy clouds encircling mountains and rocky cliffs, topped in arêtes and tarns, plunge into the sea, while up from the water jut massive looming sea stacks. It rains here a lot, and waterfalls flow continuously. Has rather a nice museum here as well. And so to Iceland itself, and there's plenty of this around, plenty of ice. Look at how the wind has eroded this hole right through the rock. Iceland is the second largest island in Europe. It's located south of the Arctic Circle, between the North Atlantic Ocean and the Greenland Sea. One of the youngest countries on Earth and has a sparse population. There's still volcanic activity, the most famous recent one being Eyjafjallajökull, which disrupted air travel in northern Europe in 2010. Seems more recent, but that was 7 years ago. Eskifjordur is an absolutely beautiful place, set amid mountains and beautiful blue skies, and it's also the site of the War Museum, Icelandic War Museum. Iceland was a strategic island in the Second World War. This beautiful museum is staffed by volunteers. And then we moved on to Akureyri. Akureyri is a wonderful place really. It's a small city in North Iceland, and it tops Lonely Planet's list of 10 best places to visit in Europe. Just 18,000 residents apparently, and it has a great botanical gardens too. We went there. Look at this beautiful cathedral. We did some walking around the place as well, and here we are at Godafoss. Everything's very well signposted. Godafoss, which is the site of a beautiful waterfall, bigger in fact than Niagara Falls. I was a bit surprised that there wasn't any evidence of hydroelectricity here, but much of Iceland's energy comes from geothermal sources, so all their hot water is absolutely free. Akureyri tops the list as the best place in Europe thanks to its easy-going feel combined with an urban buzz, it says here, whilst also providing a great base for exploring North Ireland's green pastures, fishing villages and waterfalls. Not to mention glimpsing awe-inspiring glaciers, volcanoes and lava fields. That's what we're here to see, of course, these lava fields, geothermal. The place smells absolutely ghastly. You have to hold your nose if you're not used to the smell of methane in such quantities. And it was very, very cold, bitterly cold. We all wear thick jackets, gloves and hats. But look at these geysers, so interesting, and one of the main purposes of our visit here. Well, these hot springs really are very hot, and we were all advised not to put our hands in the hot water, and of course everybody did, just to see how hot they were. Certainly hotter than you would like to have for a bath, I would think. And as you can see, the landscape is somewhat out of this world. Some people said it must be what Venus or Mars is like, but certainly how it was when the Earth formed. So now we are approaching Iceland, cold, rocky, quite fierce streams, and in contrast to the hot springs, very, very cold. Iceland is the principal town of the Westfold Peninsula in the northwest corner of Iceland, and it's breathtakingly beautiful, but it's probably the least visited part of the country. There's a port there we called in, and the town stands on a narrow spit in the ford of Skutulfjordur. I'm getting quite good at pronouncing some of these Icelandic names. What's this? It's a stall with a fish on it, and we were treated to a talk by two Icelandic fishermen who described how the fish were freeze-dried in the wooden sheds. Probably best not to mention the cod war we had with Iceland, which I think was in 1967. Blow me, I forgot to tell you about the trolls. These are basalt pillars sticking out from the rock. The Icelandic people are very superstitious, and they believe in all these Icelandic legends. They say that these trolls were frozen in time when they tried to drag giant ships out of the sea. And here they are in the street. At Namagfjall we see a stunning waterfall. Namagfjall waterfall is not very far from Iceland's capital city, Reykjavik, which is the most northern capital city in the world. And now we're at another flat field of lava beds, and a very acrid, pungent smell here too. It's only snow-capped mountainscape. This is a view of Reykjavik from the Tourist Information Office, and this is what happens during an earthquake. Unfortunately for somebody, this is their kitchen. Of course, this is only a mock-up, but quite a convincing one. So now we're approaching Jaime, which is located on an active volcanic belt 4 miles off Iceland's south coast. Delightful little port, and lots of lovely houses, very clean and organised, and they were built following the eruption in 1973. That is why Jaime is called the Pompeii of the North. Now, Pompeii of the North may sound a bit pretentious when you compare it to the Pompeii in Italy, but nevertheless it's being excavated following the eruption, 1973 eruption. About 400 houses were buried when it happened, and some of them are still being unearthed, and the objective of that is to give visitors the opportunity to see with their own eyes what actually happened during that spectacular natural fury. This is the Midhus swimming pool, which was buried, and unfortunately the only casualty of the volcanic eruption was in there at the time. But we decided that we would actually like to climb this volcano, the newest volcano in the world, and it took a very, very long time. It was like walking up a lot of clinker and loose coke. Every time we thought we'd made some progress, we saw that there was another 100 yards to go. So it took a couple of hours in all, but we did reach the top, and we're very glad we did, because here we are at the top of the world's most modern volcano. It was a great trip to a fascinating place, and thank you for sharing it with us.